Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. Hopefully my audio is coming through loud and clear here. It is promptly noon Eastern time here. I hope everybody's doing well in these interesting times that we're living in now. We're here to talk about two or three different payroll topics here. Kind of something that fits comfortably into our 20-minute format here. Welcome to you all. I hope you're all well wherever you are. Today's webinar is on payroll, void individual pay, calculate group term life taxes, and what else? Oh yeah, reactivate pay for reposting. Our workbook topics are taken from pages P102 workbooks, pages 19 to 24. That's what I'm using as my printed guide for today's webinar topic. If you have the workbook, by all means, please turn to that workbook page, those workbook pages, and you can follow right along. If you don't have the workbooks, you can go right directly to the Church Windows website, go to the training workbooks page and order and purchase those, download those workbooks at any time. They're very helpful. We try to keep the webinars in line with those workbooks whenever and wherever possible. Not always, but I'd say probably 80–90% of the time. It's I think we try to follow along those workbooks. Occasionally we have customized topics that aren't following right along with the workbooks. But we're going to work together here today till 20 minutes after the hour. I will stop wherever I am, and if you have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. I'll do my best to keep an eye on those. I'm pretty good about repeating those for everyone's benefit, and we'll see what we can do to get those answered. Please keep the questions on topic, meaning about our topics at hand here, not because I don't want to answer them, it's just my data may not support it, or there may be another webinar event that's upcoming that may be better suited for your questions, of course, or if you can, of course, contact technical support. We are available certainly by email if you have questions at this time. We're trying to get back to our phones as quickly as possible. We appreciate your patience while we work through this transition here. All right, so let's flip up to page 19 and talk about our void individual pay. So basically, you have the full control of what you can choose to do in payroll, certainly with regards to voiding pay. So how we get there is, and on page 19 there, it does say at the top, if you're wanting to void EFT or direct deposit payroll, that's not going to be covered today. But you can see page 8 on this same P102 workbook to see that about voiding your EFT pays. But it's very similar, folks, to what we're doing here. So if you click on payroll, notice that about halfway down we see one that says void individual pay here. Right below that it shows the one that says void EFT pays. Very similar. There are some differences on that. But when we click on the void individual pay window, it opens up and reveals all of our pay dates in 2020 or whatever payroll year you're in, where checks were printed or checks were assigned, check numbers were assigned. Again, EFT pays don't appear here. These are just folks who we either hand wrote checks for or we printed computer checks for in payroll, okay? Now again, folks, I do have some training data here, so I've got some future pay dates set out here, but I can literally choose any one of these pay dates here and void them. So the control you have here is you can highlight one particular pay. So we're going to choose this one right here at the top, June 30th. I can choose one employee. Again, we're dealing with Microsoft-based applications and therefore conventions. So I can hold down my control key and notice I can randomly select individual names if they're not listed sequentially that I'm wanting. Or I can highlight one, hold down my shift key, and I can select a block of paychecks that occur in a particular pay date or period, okay? Or if I want to select everybody on a pay date, I can choose the pay date from the menu in the upper left. Once it isolates those folks, I can do the select all button at the top, and it just systematically highlights all of those names that are on that pay date that I printed checks for, okay? So when I want to, so we're going to say, this is particularly important, like if I have to, maybe the net pay amount was for an employee was wrong, okay, and I didn't recognize that until after I had printed their check, I can come in here and just highlight one employee, click the void button in the upper right corner, and it'll void that pay, okay? And then I can go in and recalculate the pay for that same employee or employees, depending on who I'm voiding, or if I want to get rid of it, okay? So if I choose, say, just Jimmy on this particular pay date, and click void in the upper right corner, it'll pop up and say one entry, selected entry voided successfully. Click OK to continue. So it is giving me a chance to back out of this if I don't want to do that. So notice it is still showing Jimmy's name in red, but until I click OK on this, it's not voiding anything. Okay, so if I click cancel on that, it just replaces him back as out there in black with his check number. Okay. So if I click OK, highlight that and click void and click OK, okay, and this is true about everybody, any of them, we get a prompt now that says payroll entries were entered voided that were previously transferred to accounting. Do you want to reverse the accounting transactions for those payroll entries? And 99% of the time, in fact, I can't even think of a situation where I probably wouldn't want to do this, okay? So definitely if we're voiding it in payroll, I don't want that check number to show up in my books in accounting. I'm going to click yes to this, okay? So what that does then is, as much as it transferred over the checks into accounting when I posted it, it will then allow me to reverse those transactions in accounting as well. So now it pops up with a dialog box that says, one payroll transaction reversed in accounting. Now that check number 11577 in accounting is now reversed as well, okay? So again, you have full control of who you void your payroll checks for and who you don't, okay? That's how easy it is to void individual pays, okay? So again, that's all detailed on page 20 of there. Talks about one entry selected successfully, then do you want to reverse the accounting transactions? And again, folks, there might be a situation where I don't want to transfer a voided payroll into accounting, but frankly, I can't think of it while we're sitting here, okay? Typically, again, if I'm voiding it in payroll, I want to transfer the void status into accounting as well, okay? All right, so now moving on to the bottom of page 20, reactivate pay for reposting. This is a really, really powerful function, folks. Where we find that is we go to System Administration and Payroll, and right here about halfway down we see an option called Reactivate Pay for Reposting, okay? This is used under rare and few circumstances, okay? But when it's needed, it is really helpful and really useful, okay? So basically what we're saying is when we want to reactivate the pay for reposting, we're not talking about reposting in payroll, we're talking about transferring it into accounting, okay? So again, you can probably think of some situations now where this might be helpful. One of the first ones that comes to mind is maybe I've had to restore an accounting backup from, a few weeks or a couple weeks or a month or two ago for some reason, for whatever reason, and I don't want to have to recalculate, void and recalculate those payrolls and transfer those into accounting, okay? Maybe somebody's reversed some payroll entries or reversed the payroll entries in accounting for a particular day by mistake, even though there's a warning that comes up and says that, that says when you're reversing the payroll entry in accounting, hey, this could generate discrepancies. Are you sure you want to do this? It still will allow you to reverse payroll entries in accounting. Payroll transactions in accounting manually, not the payroll, but the accounting transactions, okay? So again, a couple of really, really powerful scenarios where this can really prove to be a helpful and a big time saver. However, when we go into the reactivate pay for reposting, there are some things that we have to make sure that we're aware that it does differently, or that does the consequences that it can have with regards to this, okay? So again, it isolates it by pay date. So right here it shows my June 30th pay, okay? Notice that Jimmy Hilliard is no longer in this list. The reason is I voided his pay for the 30th. Remember, He's no longer has a pay here there. So he's not going to show up in this to reactivate. As well, it should not, okay? But one of the first and foremost important things to keep in mind about this reactivate pay for reposting function is it's really helpful when needed. But first of all, it's all or nothing. So what I mean is, unlike other parts of the program, or like we saw under payroll with or voiding, where we can void an individual's pay, I cannot reactivate the pay for reposting for just one employee, okay? It's all or nothing. I can reactivate the pay for everybody on this pay date and transfer it into accounting, or nobody. There's no in between, okay? That may be something that changes in a future version of payroll, but I don't know that that's coming, and for right now, this is simply how it is, okay? So when I want to do it, I have to be prepared to transfer over all of my folks that were paid on that particular pay date, both EFT pay employees and those that receive checks, okay? All or nothing, okay? In addition to that, the second part of this that you have to be aware of is it will also double post in accounting. And so what I mean by that is it doesn't look over in accounting and detect that there are already payroll transactions that exist in accounting, and it will create another set of transactions with the same check numbers, with the same net pay amounts, et cetera, okay? So it can be harmful if you don't do this correctly, if you don't understand what it's doing, okay? So I have worked with folks on support who have used this by mistake, not realizing what it does. So what we then have to do is we then have to go into accounting and reverse the one set of transactions in accounting that we don't want to see there a second time, or however it occurs, either the first set or the second set. So you have to be aware that it will double post. And I do this, okay? So this goes into, accounting will post a second set of transactions in accounting, okay? So just be aware. It's all or nothing, and it will post additional payroll transactions in accounting for that same pay date. Sure, you can go over into accounting, reverse those entries, and all of those payroll transactions on that date, then come in here and reactivate pay for reposting and send over a new set of transactions if you wish, okay? But it's literally as easy as clicking on, choosing the pay date from the pay date menu. We'll pick one, we click on React in the upper right. It says, are you sure you want to reactivate the payroll date, for June 15th, 2020? We click yes. It now says 9 payroll pays for pay date June 15th are reactivated and ready to post in accounting. Click OK to continue. I now click OK on that, and it now opens up my transfer to accounting window with my June 20th pay date now ready to transfer into accounting, okay? So I can now either click transfer in the upper right and transfer that over into accounting, or if I go, oops, I didn't mean to do that, I can also then just click the delete button at the top center as well, okay? Your choice. You have full control here, all right? So yes, if I do want to now send it over into accounting, I can simply click transfer, and it'll just transfer it over into accounting just like it would normally, okay? But I know I've got pay over into those pay dates in there successfully for June 15th, so I'm not going to transfer that. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. But again, it shows all the same account numbers that are linked in payroll for my employees, and allows me to just send it right on over, quick and simple, okay? Very fast and very helpful. There are times when this is enormously helpful, but you have to be aware of what it does and how it works, okay? So we're going to go ahead and delete that. So we're going to delete that from the transfer window. And finally, with about 5 or 6 minutes left, we're going to finally wrap up our topic today on page 22 of our P102 workbook on the calculating of group term life taxes, okay? So the payroll software allows for easy input of any taxable portion of group term life insurance that is paid on behalf of the employee. As the paragraph at the top of page 22 indicates, this usually is the amount of the premium the employer pays for the portion of the insurance that's above $50,000, okay? The program will then add this into their reported or taxable wages and show in box 12C on the W-2. And it will also calculate any Social Security and Medicare taxes related to employees where that's applicable. So, for ministers, since they don't typically pay in Social Security or not having that withheld, unless they're marked as, say, the self-employment taxes are to be withheld. But even then, there's no matched employer amount for that. So ministers' SE tax still is not in play with regards to that. Okay, so how we find that is we go to payroll, and about four items down here, we see the one that says calculate group term life taxes. Okay, so then when we click on that, it asks us what pay date do we want to have this occur on, and notice it's defaulting to December 31st of 20. That's typically when this needs to be done. No money's changing hands. We're just getting this added to the employee's W-2 and into our necessary tax liabilities to pay as reported or taxes that are owed. Okay, so we're good with December 31st. I can make it any date I want, though. Okay, we're going to leave it as that date. And what we're going to do now is we're also going to calculate it for both a lay person and a person of clergy, okay, clergy person here. So Larry's our senior pastor. Jimmy is our custodian and part-time organist, so he's a lay person, okay? So this is important because it shows how it reflects on both of them, both a minister and a lay person. So the first and foremost important thing to understand about calculating the group term life taxes, much like bonuses is, and let me get out my highlighter here, is it says choose the method to handle taxes on imputed income, okay, for the group term life benefits. So notice it says the first one it defaults to is grossing up, okay, and then that's typically the default. That's typically the one that you would choose, or the other option is to manually collect the taxes from the employee, which is very, very rare, if applicable at all. I'm not sure I've seen anybody who's collected the taxes from the employee, albeit you can if you wish, okay? So if we click on leave it as gross up, and we're going to type in on some amounts here, so say Larry's imputed income was $56.78, and Jimmy's income, imputed income, was $23.45, okay? And then we're going to click next, okay? So now when we click on this, and this is again with the gross up option, folks, okay, is we click on browse calculations in the bottom right, and right here it shows Larry. It shows 0 under amount withheld for everything, but it is adding the $56.78 into his gross taxable wages for both federal and state and local, no taxes, okay? He's a minister, so there's no Social Security in play. And then when we click under Jimmy, it shows down here that it again adds it into his taxable wages for federal and state, no taxes withheld for state and local, but it is also then showing here's how much would normally be owed or withheld for Social Security and Medicare taxes, and then that's how much then will be doubled for the employer's share and transferred into our 941 tax account, okay? So to me, this all looks good, all right? So then but I just want to point out that if we go back and we do manually collect from employee and click next, okay, it shows the same exact information here, okay? Whoops, I'm sorry, folks. I didn't mean to click on that. My fault. It shows the same thing, okay? It's basically showing the same thing. It would show exactly how much was owed for taxes if the employee owed it, but we're going to go back and do gross up. So then we're going to go to next, again, just confirming that our amounts are correct. They are. Again, they're all good. We're now going to go ahead and click cancel and next. Allows us to print some reports here if we wish. It's your choice. These are pre-posting reports. It says the pay has not been posted. We go to next. Post to payroll, transfer to accounting. I do because I've got a lay person that I owe the Social Security taxes for. It says posted to employee file successfully, and I click OK. It now then allows me to transfer the taxes into our accounting module, into our employer and employee's FICA account for me to now then transfer that into accounting and add those into my 941 tax totals for the particular period, okay? And again, it opens up my accounting transfer audit report to print if I wish. But what I want to show here is really quickly, we're at our 20 minutes here, I want to run this really fast, is when we go to, say, our W-2 at year's end, we're going to do clear all, and we're going to check Jimmy and Larry and go to next, and we're going to do our file copy, and it should show right here the amount under 12C right here for Larry, $56.78, and for Jimmy, $23.45 with a box code of C. Okay? So it is doing everything that it needs to do, and it will transfer the taxes into accounting seamlessly. Okay? All right, so that is our topic for the day.